A major weather system may mess up the morning commute for the Northeast and New England. Good evening to you, and welcome to WeatherScope. I'm Bob Stokes.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. That same system brought severe weather to the southeast today and dumped snow on the Midwest. As much as a foot of snow is piled up around Omaha, Nebraska. This is a very wet, heavy snow, and guess we'll have to take a look at that a little later on. Let's take a look actually at what's going on out there right now. Let's take a look at our big picture across the country. And here we go. In the eastern U.S., this is where this storm system is as it pushes eastward across the U.S. We've got a variety of things going on here, from wintry precipitation. We've got snow here around the north and west side of our area of low pressure, snowing now from parts of Missouri on into Illinois and then back into Michigan. And we're also seeing a bit of snow now working into northern New York. And folks in northern New York, northern New England, the higher elevations could pick up some rather substantial amounts of snow. As we head southward into this area, out ahead of our cold front and south of a warm front, we're still getting rain and still getting thunderstorms here. And then as we head northward, we're getting some wet weather into the northeastern U.S. and to look for that to continue as we head through the overnight hours as this warm front approaches. How fast the rain ends depends on really the speed of this front, but it looks like it could be a messy commute for folks in the northeast, say New York, maybe into Boston in the morning hours. To the south we go, and pretty evident where we're getting the wet weather here across northern Florida. And you can see that there is more moisture, more cloud cover that's going to be pushing eastward, and it's going to affect not only northern Florida, but perhaps areas to the south as well. As we're seeing rain, we're seeing storms, and we are seeing the threat for severe weather here. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect for northern Florida. You could have strong gusty winds with some of these storms, and of course some heavy amounts of rain. This in effect until 4 o'clock local time. Let's take a look at the radar, and what we've got is really a line of storms moving through northern Florida. Look out Ocala, look out Jacksonville is headed your way. Really anywhere in the path of this line of storms, you could have some very rough weather. Again, strong damaging winds a possibility, and of course the heavy amounts of rain. And you've seen a lot of rain already in northern Florida, and eventually as we see this pushing on eastward, we'll see points to the south getting the rain and the storms as well. As out of radar range here to the south, we've got even more wet weather and more storms here. To the north we go through the Carolinas, and we don't see the weather quite as active here. Much of the heaviest precipitation is off over the open waters of the Atlantic, but do notice that we've got an area of showers and storms here south of Macon back to around Albany. Northward we go, where again we are expecting more wet weather here. It's raining now in New York City, in Hartford, approaching Boston, and it looks like we are going to see more wet weather in our forecast. This is what we're expecting as we head on into Monday morning as the warm front approaches, another area of low pressure developing offshore, and the snow continuing here, wrapping around this area of low pressure back to the west, also into northern New England. We'll have more on your forecast coming up a little later on. Bob?
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, Christina. Well, temperatures remain mild in the northwest, while a warm-up may be in store for Colorado, only days after the state's worst storm in almost 3 decades. Now, this was the scene in Denver Sunday, one day after the season's first blizzard passed through the area. Now, snow blanketed most structures, but that may not last. Overnight, it will drop into the teens. But Monday, temperatures are expected to be in the upper 40s. And Tuesday, it is expected to be in the 50s. Boy, was that a heavy snow, up to 4 feet in some locales, of course, in the greater Denver area. Right now, in the northwest, we have a front that's on its way through, and that's a relatively weak front, but strong enough to induce a southerly flow ahead of it. So we're seeing some rainfall in the Pacific Northwest, including Olympia, Washington, Seattle. But as it passes through and then makes its way into the plains, watch for that front to turn dry. In the meantime, it's a wet one. You can see the energy coming in from the Pacific right now, scooting into Stevens County, the greater Spokane area. Snow levels have been at about 5,500 feet. After the passage of the front, expect those to fall to 4,000 feet tomorrow. And there's the wet weather in Washington and Oregon. As we take a look at the radar picture, you can see the wet weather in Stevens County as well as Spokane. And much of the wet weather has moved toward the east of the greater Seattle area. Still on the, eastern fringes of Bellevue, even east of there, though, but Bellevue was the last to see some wet weather. Be careful along I-5 tomorrow. It looks like wet weather will stay in the forecast for you. Probably some sunny breaks by the afternoon as a ridge builds in briefly behind this wet weather maker, which you can see just to the east of Seattle presently. Here's a look at the snowfall forecast. We could see 1 to 3 inches in the Cascades, again lowering to 4,000 feet, and also some in the northern part of Idaho. Look at these temperatures, how cold they are, coming down. Some locales experiencing temperatures in the teens right now, and with all that cold air sinking southward, we do have frost and freeze advisories, but right now here's the wind chills. Feels like 0 degrees in Goodland, Kansas, 20 in Sioux Falls, and 14 in Minneapolis. And there's the frost and freeze advisories coming up right now, I hope, over much of, there we go, much of the Lone Star State, getting into Oklahoma City, as well as Kansas City, do protect that tender vegetation. Christina?
Has this year's El Nino influenced the 1997 hurricane season? Well, it depends on what region you examine, the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific. Janetta Jones has the answer in tonight's edition of El Nino Focus.
Each year, the hurricane season is affected by many different